Alright guys, so I made this video not really realizing that my microphone wasn't on. So I'm just kind of going through it and trying to talk about what is happening here because I really didn't want to make it again. However, the thing I'm using isn't showing me what I'm already writing down. So, okay, basically the idea with this assignment was that you created an equivalent equation. An equivalent equation is an equation that has the same answer but is a different equation. Generally what we do is we solve an equation by creating equivalent equations that are then more simple and more simple and more simple until we get to the variable being by itself with a number also, okay? So kind of the idea behind this is that these are pretty simple equations. You could solve them without doing anything, probably just looking at them and kind of guessing and checking. But the idea behind this assignment was to get us to recognize the fact that what's kind of the first step you need to do. And taking a look at those problems, recognizing that we, need to add or subtract or multiply or divide, do the inverse operation of what's been done to it, and with the knowledge that if we do whatever we do to one side, we have to do to another side, okay? So, if we don't maintain that equality because of those properties of equality. Okay, the addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, multiplication and division properties of equality, which tell us that I can do anything I want to either side as long as I do it to the other side, okay? But we use that idea that we can make it more simple and make an equivalent equation that's more simple. Like in this case, we added 15 to both sides, which gave us, negative 11 equals a, because we can drop off that plus 0 because it doesn't count, because adding 0 does nothing, okay? And the reason we did this, and really the reason we do all the steps that we're trying to do, is because we want to eliminate whatever's next to the variable, okay? So that's the idea behind this whole thing. So you can keep watching the video. I won't talk through the whole thing because honestly it's really tough to try to keep up with how I'm writing things and also trying to say the same type of stuff. Because yeah, I spent like 20 minutes making a video and talking to my iPad as I was making it, not realizing that my iPad wasn't really listening, okay? So again, equivalent equations, same equation, give us the same answer. That's why we can use them, and we use certain numbers, add, subtract, multiply, or divide in a way to make it more simple. Like this one, 22 equals a plus 9. By subtracting 9 from both sides, we get rid of the plus 9, so we end up with just a equals a number, which is what we like to see, isn't it? Okay? So you can keep watching, check it out, but like I said, you're not going to have much more voice. When we get to the second page, I will probably talk a little bit more, but hopefully you can kind of just get an idea for what's going on. Oh, right here I should probably mention this. So according to the properties of equality, I can add whatever I want to. So I could add 80 to both sides, and I could come up with an equivalent equation of v plus 72 equals 57. But the idea is that's not really helping me understand what v is, right? By adding those 80s. But I can do it because of the property of equality. So what I really want to do is use those properties of equality to make an equation that's easier for me to understand. So in this case, I'm going to add 8 to both sides so that by adding 8 from that minus 8, we simplify and make it a lot easier equation, which is the whole reason we're doing all this when we solve, okay? Which is kind of what this worksheet was trying to get at, all right? So you can watch the next bit, look for me when the next page turns, and I'll talk some more, okay? Sound good? And you can come talk to me in class if you're still not sure about any of these ideas or things that you need to do. Alright, so we're on to the second page, and what you should notice is that now we've got equations that are a little bit more complex, don't we? Okay, but basically these ones on the front, they only took one step to really simplify them. And the idea here is that we're basically adding two things together to make an equation, okay? So we've got a multiplication and we've got a subtraction. Just like if we look at question number 3 was a subtraction and number 5 was a multiplication, okay? So we've just taken those two concepts and we've put them together to create a more complex equation, okay? But the same idea here is that we are creating an equivalent equation to make it more simple, okay? And the idea is, if you're not sure where to start, pretend you were evaluating it. Say you had a number in for the variable. What would you do first, right? Well, you'd take -3 and times it by the -4, the number that we changed from the variable. So that's the first idea. Then after we got that answer, we'd subtract 9. So when we're solving, we're going backwards and we do the inverse operation. So instead of timesing by -3, we divide by -3. Instead of subtracting 9, we add 9. And we work backwards, so we start from the bottom. So we would add 9 first, because then that would make it a more simple equation. And we'd end up with just -3n equals +3, okay? That's an equivalent equation that we have right there, okay? So, and it's more simple, as we can see. So why would we get rid of that -9? Because that helps us get a more simple equation. Now the next step to solving this would make it even more simple by doing using another property of equality. In this case, we do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. We divide both sides by -3, and we come up with a third equivalent equation, just like that, okay? So keep watching. I may talk about one or two more things here. Okay, right here, the main thing to mention, if you look at number 14, okay, there's two ways you could solve it. You could start by dividing the whole thing by 8 because it's multiplied on the left side by 8. And then you would subtract by 3, giving you 3 equivalent equations there. Or you could distribute, because that is another property we can use. And you distribute the 8, giving you what I'm writing in black ink, the 8x plus 24 equals 40. Then the 8x equals 16 and x equals 2. So all these are equivalent equations, and they all give us the same answer, but depending on what we do, we can go different routes while we're doing this, okay? So again, how does making an easier equation help you solve for the variable? Well, you get it down, so all you have to do is look at it and you know exactly what the variable is without having to do any sort of work, anything like that, okay? And that's really the goal when you're looking at it.